Hello and welcome back to UIInsight. In this segment, I'd like to talk about phone numbers, specifically phone numbers in forms, and what's the best approach that we can take with formatting these input fields. So the question is phone numbers. 1 field, 2 fields, 3 fields, 4. That's what we'll talk about in today's segment. Here's a very typical form. You can see it's got lots of elements: street address, city, state, blah, blah, blah. And down at the bottom, we've got a couple of phone number fields, home and daytime. Let's zoom in on that. Now, this form has chosen to break those phone numbers into 3 fields. And the question is why? So we're all familiar with this, and we all know what to do with this. We set focus to that first field, and we type in our area code. Then we hit tab, or maybe we don't hit tab because maybe the program's really being smart and it says, hey, this guy's entered 3 digits for the area code. I'm going to hit tab for him and move him to the next field. And that's one of my problems with 3 fields for the phone number, because you need, as a user, you need to figure out what this form is going to do for you. So you type in the area code, you may or may not have to hit tab to get to that next field. So that's one of the problems, I believe, that we have with 3 fields for the phone number. If you look at the rest of the form, like email address, it's not broken up into 3. And this would look kind of ridiculous. Forcing the user to set focus to that first field, type in the first part of their email address, hit tab, go to the next one. You could imagine Richard Feynman typing in his email address, sets focus to that field, types in R. Feynman, then he has to hit tab, go to the next field, type in the domain name, bongos, and then hit tab again and drop down that list box to select the domain type. That's not reasonable. What do I propose? Just like the email address, and like every other field in this form, let's trust that the user knows what they're entering. For the email address, they type in the email address. For me, Stephen@UIInsight.com. I don't need guidance for different, I don't need the guidance of 3 boxes with an @ sign in the middle of it. Same thing with the phone number. I know how to enter my phone number. Now, is this for every single form? Of course not. You might be designing some administrative software for a nuclear missile site, and you're entering the phone number for the president, for that nervous guy who's thinking about pressing the button. You don't want to get that wrong. You don't want him dialing it and hearing, hello, you've reached Bob's Zipline, whatever, in Hockessin, Delaware. You want him to reach the president. So is this for every form? Of course not. But I'm guessing the vast majority of forms would be perfectly suited to having a single form, a single field, for phone numbers. Let the user enter the data that they need to enter, just like every other field in the form. So here's a great example. This guy's filling out a form to get aluminum siding quote for his house. Well, his daytime phone number in San Diego is that conventional 334 that we're all familiar with. But even though he works in San Diego, he happens to live in the very northern part of Mexico, drives across the border. His phone number at home, totally different format. It would be ridiculous to force him to enter that phone number in the conventional 334 boxes. So this is a great example of the benefit of a flexible input. Let's look at another example. So here, the home phone number we've entered, very conventional, 334 with dashes in between. But look at what we've done on the daytime phone. I mean, this says the phone number, but don't call before 10. I mean, this might be the guy that works in the missile silo, nuclear missile silo, and let's not wake him up before it's time. You might get pissed off. So what's nice about this is the flexibility to enter whatever the user needs. Now, would this confuse a program that tried to dial that number? Of course it would, but that's not the situation. The consumer of this data downstream is probably a person, and as such, that person is totally capable, totally suited for digesting this content. Anybody can read this and understand what it's about. There's a phone number. I'm not supposed to call this guy before 10. That's fine. I'll wait until after coffee to call this guy. Let's look at another example. This person decided to put, instead of dashes, they've got something against dashes, they've got dots. In fact, they've got space, dot, space, where most people would put a dash. Again, for a human, reading that data, that content, that phone number, it's not a problem. I mean, they can easily accept the fact that this person chose to use dots instead of dashes. Anybody could dial that phone number, no problem. Now, what if you've got somebody on your team or in your company or in your group that just can't stand looking at these phone numbers not formatted the conventional way? It's very simple code to look at a field, a phone number field, and say, are there 10 numeric digits? Ignore everything else in the field. Are there 10 numeric digits? And if there are, let's format that in the conventional way. Given this example, for the home phone number, they've entered 10 digits. They've got those dots and spaces in there, but they've entered 10 digits. We can take that very easily, analyze it with a tiny bit of code, look at it and say, yes, there are 10 digits. I'm going to throw away their formatting, the user's formatting. I'm going to insert my own formatting with the conventional parentheses around the area code, space, next 3 digits, dash, 4 digits. Totally doable. Now, the simple algorithm that we determined would be suitable for formatting phone numbers falls apart on the second one. There's 10 digits, but there's also 2 more digits, that 10 AM. So now there's a dozen digits in this field. Algorithm says there's not 10. I don't know what to do with it. In that case, I'm just going to leave it alone. No problem. And that's fine. I think that's a suitable solution. So what have we determined? I propose that phone numbers, for most situations, not administrative software for nuclear missile silos, for most situations, your phone number field should be a single field, not 3 fields. This allows for flexible input. We're going to trust that the users of these forms know what they're typing in. We trust them on all the other fields. Let's trust them on the phone number. And of course, it's easier. We don't have to code tabbing between fields. We don't have to force the user to tab between fields. Overall, it's just simpler. If you have any comments or questions, I'd love to hear from you. Again, my email address is steven@uiinsight.com.